Tuesday night, Discovery's back on, and believe it or not, so are we. It's Mission Log Live. I'm Ken Ray.
And I'm John Champion, and yes, we're back again like we like to be, chatting with you, our Star Trek pals, to see what made the latest disco tick. Tonight, you know the drill. Quick recap, share some thoughts, and open it up to you because we want to know what you thought. Klingons and Vulcans and babies, oh my, it's Point of Light, Episode 3 of Season 2. You can click on the link to join our Zoom meeting, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone. You can also pick up the phone and dial 646-558-8656. Then enter the meeting code that you'll find in the show description and the comments. Then there we all are talking Trek.
Now, listen, it's very important that you do call in tonight because John and I are out here. Well, not by ourselves because we do have each other, but John and I are guest free this evening, which means plenty of time for you to call in and give your thoughts. Now, I pretend to know what a lot of you are thinking. Couldn't you get an executive producer of Discovery to be on your show? Because you know one. And you're right, we do. Roddenberry, of course, could have joined us tonight, but he decided instead to go and celebrate his birthday.
You know, anybody could do that. Anybody once a year.
I know. Any other night would have been fine for him doing that. He does actually listen to this show, even if he doesn't watch it live. So happy birthday, Rod, and many happy returns. And try not to interfere with the show next time, would you?
Right. So,
also,
hey,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to jump in with the thanks to Earl, Earl Green, our technical director. Hey, look, it's a live show. Sometimes you get a technical problem. And he said to us, I just have to read this. You're up, guys. Sorry, I had a problem that I didn't even know could happen.
Yay.
Yeah. So, it's a learning process for us all. So thank you to everybody who kind of hung in there with us.
It is discovery all around, isn't it, John?
Mm-hmm.
Discovery, you see, because he's discovering.
Right.
So yeah, give us a call. 646-558-8656 is the phone number to call. 646-558-8656. Then enter the meeting code that you will find in the show description in the comments, or join the Zoom meeting like John talked about earlier. Thank you for joining us live, either on Facebook or on Facebook, I believe. Facebook.com/missionlog is the way we're doing that. Are we up on YouTube yet?
We're up on YouTube later. So
okay,
after that, it'll go up there, so it won't be live there. But
so if you're joining us live on YouTube, I got bad news. But yeah, Facebook.com/missionlog for the live show. And if you want to catch the replay on YouTube, it is youtube.com/Roddenberryprod. youtube.com/Roddenberryprod. Of course, you might be grabbing just the audio feed later. Basically, however you're getting this show, thank you very much for joining us, and we do hope you'll join us again and tell other people about it. And let's get on to other stuff. What's coming up in the future, John? The future where all of us will live one day, or
we will all spend the rest of our lives. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
So as we do, Discovery releases every Thursday night, 14 episodes in this season. So we'll be doing this for a little while longer. We just, by the way, had our first ever event in the new Roddenberry Theater in VR last week. So thanks for coming to the live show. And if you're so inclined, we'd love to see you over at the Roddenberry Nexus. Big thanks to Larry Nemechek, who stepped in virtually to screen the TOS blooper reel and provide insight and some color commentary there. That's all part of the Roddenberry Nexus and Sansar. Of course, you don't have to wait for an event to go there. Sansar.com has a ton of cool stuff, including the Nexus, where we have art from the motion picture, costumes from the original series and the movies and TNG, ships and toys and all kinds of fun stuff. So you can do all of that with a headset, an Oculus Rift or HTC Vive. Or if you don't have a VR rig, you can still access it from your PC as long as you're running Windows 7 or later. The place for more info and to sign up for your free account is sansar.com. That is SANSAR.com. And just today, Ken, we were talking about scheduling our next event, TBA, but it should be on Thursday, February 21st, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, that's the plan. We don't know exactly what it is we're going to be doing there, although we do have that neat theater. So we're thinking something theatrical. We're thinking something, that'll something to show people and then discuss it, not just, standing around looking at things that are sitting there.
Yeah, I can tell you another thing that's coming up in this show. So coming up, we're going to have the poll question just
Hmm.
in mere seconds. We're going to have the recap. Then we're going to have a discussion. So we've got Brian standing by, and we'll be going to him. So Brian, please be patient. We're going to get your thoughts on disco this week. But before we get to the recap, before we get to Brian, let's talk about the poll. So last week we asked you, is Tilly Wesley 2.0?
Hmm.
26% of you said yes. 74% of you said no. I definitely say no. I see where people could make a parallel there, but I think they're cut from different cloth.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, because you asked me last week what I thought, but I didn't want to say anything before the poll started, or
Okay.
before people had a chance to take the poll. But I'll go ahead and say now. Last week she felt a little bit like Wesley 2.0. This week less so.
Hmm.
So I mean, if I had answered the question last week, and I did, I was in the 26%.
Yeah.
There was a little too much like she's always got the right answer. Everybody is willing to defer to her. Like they basically let a cadet or an ensign, I guess, guide an asteroid into the shuttle bay, right? Which
Yeah.
is kind of a big thing that you would normally want somebody with a little bit higher rank to do. And then she came in and pushed Detmer aside last week, to sit at the con and tried to
Hmm.
figure out how they were going to do the donut and stuff like that, and just kind of runs in and blurts out an idea. She's cooler than Wesley. She's funnier than Wesley, but there's a bit of Wesley there, and that
Yeah.
the young upstart is going to have the right answer. And boy, oh boy, does every, if you pardon me for saying so, I was going to say adult, but boy, oh boy, does every higher ranking official on there defer to her quite a bit.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
that's sort of where you could make the argument, I think. But
Yeah.
then this week she was just nuts,
Yeah.
which
Well, yes, she
which was
was.
interesting. And
Yeah.
and you only
Yeah.
saw that with Wesley, I think, one time, which was the one where he wanted ice cream for everybody, or was that his counterpart in TOS? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Naked Now, I believe, was the only time that you really saw Wesley like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. All right. Well, so this week, and good elucidation there on that. So this week we asked you, themed to this week's episode, about what's going on with Tilly and with May, and then that spore thing that attached itself to Tilly and then became sentient. Is the spore creature evil? Well, last I looked, may be 37%, may be not 63%. Mhm.
Is it a visual joke? Yeah,
Yeah,
May,
yeah,
because
May.
her name's May, and I think it's a funny joke.
I'm
Personally,
going to
it's a
say the
great.
person who came up with that very clever. I am a fan.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Whoever came up with that, way to go, you.
yeah.
Do you want to talk about that one? Or that's probably something we can talk about after the recap, huh?
I think we should. I think if you could regale us with the recap, and then we'll hop over to our first caller, and we'll just go it up. Okay.
All right. 3 stories this week: Burnham, Tilly, and the Klingons. We will start with the Klingons. On Kronos, L'Rell is showing off a new Klingon battle cruiser to be used by all of the houses. The D7 will bear the crest of the United Klingon Empire, not of individual houses. Its construction will be overseen by L'Rell's torchbearer, Voke, aka Ash Tyler, aka Voke. Not everyone's into the idea. Like Cole's dad, he's especially offended by having this, whatever Ash Tyler is, in any position of authority. The conversation gets heated, ending with Voke Tyler trying to remove the ceremonial paint from the older Klingon's face. So that went well. Everybody's being cagey around Voke Tyler, even those close to L'Rell. He and she are also having a tough time. He's committed to her, yet her touch feels to the human part of the Klingon like a violation. Time to make a call to Michael Burnham. He lets her know that the situation on Kronos is destabilizing. The houses are starting to buck under L'Rell's leadership. Also, he's worried that he's hurting L'Rell. Also, hi. Okay, bye. Still suspicious of everyone's suspicions, Vogue Tyler finds some of L'Rell's closest associates huddled in secret, and he has had enough. He threatens L'Rell's uncle, who says he's not the one keeping secrets. L'Rell is. The biggest secret? A child, the son of L'Rell and Vogue. So Vogue Tyler's kind of tweaked. L'Rell explains that she got pregnant before Vogue became Tyler. She couldn't weasel her way onto Discovery to activate Tyler while pregnant, so she had the kid ex utero. She's never named him. She's never even seen him. The kid's a liability. Also, L'Rell knows about Tyler's call to Burnham, though he says that was just to warn Starfleet of the potential instability. Nothing personal. Tyler sees their son as the unifying bond Kronos needs. New plan, they'll be a family, mother, father, and son. Going to find their boy, they find L'Rell's slain uncle instead, killed by Cole's father. Remember the paint Vogt Tyler tried to wipe from the old Klingon's face? Turns out that was nanotech, able to listen to everything Tyler's been up to. He knows about Tyler's call to Burnham, a betrayal to the Empire in his estimation. He also knows about the baby, which Cole's dad is now holding hostage. He'll return the kid and let L'Rell free if she turns control of the Empire over to him. Of course, L'Rell has no intention of turning over control of the Empire to Cole's dad, so it's a fight to the deaths. And Team L'Rell's about to die. Until the Mirror Universe's own Philippa Georgiou, now of Prime Universe's Section 31, shows up, laying waste to Cole's dad and Cole's dad's friends. Georgiou explains, the Federation cannot afford to have anyone else as head of the Klingon Empire. That's why she's been spying and why she stepped in. But Vogt Tyler and the kid are liabilities. They're going to have to go. The next time we see L'Rell, she's addressing the Klingon High Council. She says the human, whose name she can no longer even say, betrayed them to the Federation. He's killed Cole's dad, who L'Rell says was defending her, the sacrifice of one house saving many. Then, the human killed the secret child that she had with Vogt. So she killed Tyler. To prove it, she shows them the severed head of the child and the human, tossing Tyler's head into lava. No more kids for her. From now on, all Klingons will be her children. They will call her Mother. Hold on the Empire cemented. Of course, neither Tyler nor the kid are dead. They're on a Section 31 shuttle. The kid will be raised by Klingon monks. He'll never know who his parents were. Just a simple monastic Klingon life. And Tyler? Maybe he'd like to join Section 31? Tilly's tale. Sylvia Tilly is running from her dead friend. Literally. She wins a race, though, so yay. Later, her dead friend, May, is getting to be more of a bother. Tilly's supposed to be shadowing Pike, though her dead friend is angry. Pike's not the captain that May is looking for. The captain she's looking for is short, blonde, mean. Faced with someone who's apparently not there, Tilly loses it, yelling at no one, realizing what she's done, saying she quits, and leaving the bridge. Eventually, she comes clean about what's going on. Tilly tells Burnham about her dead friend. She knows she's crazy, though Burnham hears a clue. Tilly says May is confused by Tilly's crying. But even an imaginary dead friend would know what tears are. May's not a ghost, nor an illusion. The two think maybe a mirror universe spore has infected Tilly. Taking the problem to Stamets, it turns out, yeah, Tilly's been infected by a multi-cell, multi-dimensional fungal parasite. Imaginary May is frightened. She says Tilly is her only hope, though Tilly is ignoring her. Then Stamets begins removing the parasite, which, once removed, is kind of blobby, but it's out and it's caught. Burnham's story. Burnham's still worried about the 7 signals and her relationship with her adopted brother, Spock. On the bridge, yellow alert, Disco is intercepted by a Vulcan ship. Sarek's ship, though Sarek's not on board. It's Sarek's wife and Spock's mother and Burnham's adopted mother, Amanda. Amanda says Spock needs their help, and she can only turn to Michael. Spock's family knows that Spock's in a psych ward, though there's more that they don't know. The hospital where Spock's supposed to be says he isn't there. They would tell Amanda nothing. So she kind of stole his medical file. Burnham and Amanda want Pike to authorize opening Spock's medical file. He's not keen on that, so he calls Starfleet for an update on Spock's condition. That's met with a big surprise. Starfleet says Spock killed 3 of his doctors, then escaped. Also, some of his files have gone missing. Pike, Burnham, and Amanda do not believe that Spock killed anyone, and so the word is given. Pike tells Burnham to break into Spock's medical file, which she does. The file shows extreme empathy deficit. It also shows the Red Angel. Amanda knows it. Spock started seeing it when he was a kid. It even told Spock once where Burnham was when she ran away. Burnham tells Amanda that the time she saw it. Burnham tells Amanda about the time she saw it as well. As for Spock's extreme empathy deficit, Amanda blames herself. She distanced herself from Spock as a boy to make him more Vulcan. But Burnham says it was her fault. Worried that the Vulcan separatists would kill her as a child, she was mean to Spock, mean in a way that she won't state out loud, hoping to keep him from harm should harm find her. With that news, Amanda turns cold, takes Spock's medical file, and heads off to find him on her own.
Whoa.
So it felt like that was a better way to tell the story. Do everybody's story individually rather than doing the back and forth thing.
I totally agree. Yeah,
Cool.
Definitely a good choice there. Something I want to point out before we get into any discussion here. Our listeners are awesome. Because we had one or two technical issues tonight, and everybody just they're having fun. They jumped from the first doomed feed to our new, hopefully not doomed feed. They've been chiming in. David said it happened right after Larry joined, so blame Larry.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, all kinds of fun to be had about our misfortune. So. And thanks to Earl for getting us back up and running very quickly. And thanks to everybody who has stuck around. We really appreciate it. And Ken, well done on the recap there. Look, I feel like we can't hold Brian any longer. I feel like he has been with us. He has witnessed all of this mess. So I feel like we need to go to Brian right away. So if we can unmute Brian, bring him in. Brian, sir, thank you for sticking around. And what have you got to share with us and with our listeners about tonight's disco? Oh, we gotta unmute him. There he is.
Hey guys, it's great to talk to you.
Hey, thank you again.
Sure. I'm so glad to talk to you guys. So I did have a couple of thoughts about last week's episode. Mostly, I mean, I love representation. It's something that's important. So to see Michael Burnham, to see Amanda, to see Giorgio, and then even Laurel, really coming into their own. Tilly in this episode was amazing. But I think a bigger thing that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about is something that Captain Pike is bringing to Discovery now that we maybe didn't have before. And that goes back to Captain Lorca's quote, "Context is for kings." This idea that if you're a main character, you don't have consequences, basically. And we see this over and over again on Star Trek. Michael Burnham sort of learned that lesson last year, but she also came around to thinking that, it was not a good thing that she mutinied. And Lorca told her it was okay. And now we have Pike that's telling her it's okay. And if you're a Star Trek fan, you remember Pike literally got Spock off the death penalty years ago. Context, And you see it with Tilly in this episode. You see it with the Spock's medical file, and I think it's just a really interesting thing that they kind of realized that was a fun part of Star Trek that maybe what we weren't seeing as much, and they bring it back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And I wonder what you guys think about that.
Well. I do want to say that for this week's episode, first of all, not enough Pike for me. So the things that you're talking about that really got you fired up about last week's episode, and I would even say the one before that, yes, I do not disagree with you. Now, when Lorca was saying that context is for kings, he was using that in a really underhanded way. You know, when
Hmm.
when we see a guy like Pike, who, from all indications, is he's on the right side morally, then applying context, or as we like to talk about when we were discussing particularly TOS and into decisions that were made on TNG, compassion was that element
Hmm.
that had to be there to be the temperance between the purely logical and purely emotional decision that had to be made,
Hmm.
and always expertly played out in the Kirk, Spock, McCoy triumvirate. You know, or we referred to ethos, pathos, logos being the three influences, the three arguments to be made as expressed by those characters.
I
So
see.
yeah, look, I don't disagree with you. I just feel I feel maybe a little unprepared tonight because tonight's episode was the Klingon Tilly Burnham
Oh,
story,
right.
and,
And we
and I
saw
feel
that.
like and I feel like we shifted gears a bit, and
I understand.
and I feel like we're also watching a middle story.
Hmm.
You know,
I will tell you one thing. I was talking over this episode with a friend of mine, though, who said that she became more respectful, I think, of Pike as a captain. This particular Pike is becoming one of her favorite captains because he's a really good manager, which is kind of funny. But Amanda and Michael Burnham come to Pike and they're like, "Listen, we have Pike's Spock's medical record. We want to break into it." And Pike's like, "No, no, no, you cannot do that because that is wrong." And then he calls Starfleet and he's like, "So what's going on?" Starfleet's like totally giving him the runaround, and he doesn't believe it anymore. So at that point, he doesn't go. He doesn't say. He doesn't lose Spock's medical record. He doesn't, on the sly hand it back to her. He then takes ownership of the situation. They're still going to get to do what they want to do, and it's for good reason. But he says, break into that file. That's an order. So now he owns the situation. So it's not like the whole mutiny thing. It's not like if it's even okay. Now he's taking on that mantle instead, which was sort of a subtlety of his character that hadn't occurred to me until I was having that discussion. And yeah, kind of like it. I don't know if that answers your question exactly or if that addresses what you were saying exactly, but
Hmm.
it's kind of more nuanced. I mean, last year it was people just go off and do things on their own. And this year, I mean, they're not necessarily playing by the book completely, but they are playing as a cohesive unit, which is kind of neat.
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
Brian,
Anything else? Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
no, I was going to do what you're doing. I was going to ask if you had any other comments, and I was also going to encourage you, Brian, to call back as we go through the next 11 episodes of Discovery. Check back in with us from time to time because I feel like there's so much more of Pike to come, and particularly hammering what you're talking about, this sort of using the context / compassion in the way that he makes decisions. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
I
And
feel
I
like
think
there's going
we'll
to be a
see
lot
some
more.
of that when Spock comes in. I'm expecting to see echoes of the menagerie in the cage as we see Spock and Pike's relationship.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Indeed. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks for holding on through our technical difficulties, and please come back, okay?
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care. Hey,
646-558-8656 is the phone number to call. 646-558-8656. Or if you're on Facebook, you can click on the link in the chat, which I think is pinned right to the top now. So just click on that and follow the instructions, and you can be on with us.
yeah, we do have Doug who's waiting to chat with us. And really quickly, before we get to you, Doug, I see you waving there. How you doing, man? Before we jump over to Doug, there's a couple of questions that I just wanted to pull from the chat real quick here. First of all, hi, TL Coco. Thanks for joining us, as you do Tuesday nights. Glad to see you as always. Michael poses an interesting question. He says, are you guys concerned at all with the dead people coming back from the Spore network being connected to pseudoscientific theories of real-life Paul Stamets, who seems to view intergalactic metaphysical mushrooms as a real thing? I brought that up because honestly, I don't have an answer. I'm not familiar enough with what the real Paul Stamets has done or is doing or believed. really know nothing of that. But I wanted to address your question because you do actually hit on something that I found to be a very interesting part of this episode, which is the Stamets experience with what was happening in the mycelial network versus the Tilly experience of what was happening in the mycelial network. They're both having an emotional reaction to what's going on. And Stamets very clearly heartbroken and grieving over what happened to Culber, and just the idea that he saw him at all and is trying to wrap his head around why, and would he even want to experience that again? And if he does, what does it mean? Does he stay there? Does Culber come back with him? This is all big stuff for him to deal with. Contrast that with Tilly's experience, which is this ridiculous thing happen, which is playing havoc with her ability to do her job. She goes to her friend Burnham, and Burnham immediately says, let's science this. Let's figure out why this is happening, what this is. And then she says, all right, look, you don't need the sick bay. You need to get to engineering. Here's how we resolve this. This plays into a theme that we really started to dig into last week, which is, here's an experience. Different people will bring their values to it, their emotions to it, and they will sort out that experience in the way that they know how, and the way that they're conditioned to. So I like the fact that just even on board, we're seeing Stamets go through a thing, we're seeing Tilly go through a thing related because of the Spore network, but having a very different response to it. And I'm curious if, because of what just happened to Tilly, that we'll get more out of Stamets in the weeks to follow in his ability to reconcile seeing Culber. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. That's why I'm glad that you mentioned the Spore network, Michael. Any comments there, Ken, before we jump over to Doug?
Not about that question specifically, but I think there's one thing that's bothering me about the whole May thing. She has expressed on more than one occasion that, she needs help, that Tilly's the only one that she can trust. I mean, I think she even said at one point, just, tell them what I want to say, or something along those lines. She's going to end up being the Horda, right? Mm-hmm. We think she's evil. We think she's trying to drive Tilly mad. She does, in fact, for some reason, have something that's actually going to be important. I actually sort of kind of started to wonder, do we want to do where we think it might go, or do we want to hold on to that one?
Well,
I'm asking you.
Yeah, I say we hold on. Yeah.
You say we hold on.
I say we hold on.
Here's the thing. If it turns out I was right, then I can't 5 weeks from now go, see, I totally knew it. I almost said that one time.
Yeah.
But okay, we'll hold on to it if you want to.
All right.
I think she's going to end up being a bigger. I think the whole May thing is going to be more of a fulcrum than we realize. And I hope so, because otherwise it's just an annoying character that can't leave soon enough.
Thank you as an annoying character. Yes. Thank you.
But when you start to see her desperation, not as just I'm an annoying person, but something really, bad is theoretically happening to her, then I'm okay with her being annoying. If it's just look, I'm trying to learn to talk. I'm trying to learn to walk around in your, state of being, that whole thing.
Still annoyed.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you. We do have somebody else. Waiting though, John.
Yes, Doug. Doug, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you so much for your patience. How's it going?
Oh, yeah. Oh, great. How are you all doing?
We're hanging in there.
Right. So I have a couple things I just wanted to make note of, I suppose. And sorry, I have my cat in the way.
First of all, does the cat have a Star Trek name?
Joey. Help me out here. It's actually a Simpsons reference, the Joey Jojo Shabadoo, but yeah. Anyway,
all I could see was the black part of the cat. For people listening to the audio, Doug is on video, and Doug's cat is actually more on video than Doug is. All I could see was the black part. I was hoping your name was Isis.
Oh,
but there you go.
So first off, there's the I've been watching Discovery with my wife, who doesn't really watch Star Trek, so it's been fun going through that first season, and now we're going through season 2, and it's neat watching with someone who isn't Trekkie. My point will come around to that later, in that she points out some different things. First off, I want to say that Michael, what did she do to Spock? Like, I know that's the reveal. I know it's like built up for us to like really wonder that, but I'm starting to like, it's being built up in such a way that it's like, okay, you just need to talk about it. This is getting really weird. Like,
I'm going to put in my vote. I'm going to say, if I were in the writer's room, poisoned Ichaya.
Well, we know she didn't do that because Ichaya got killed trying to defend Spock. Because I was going to say hurt his dog or something like that. Or obviously hurt his sailor, but we know it wasn't that because. Anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm also wondering how much of the of that sort of like animated episode, if it would be referenced or alluded to or anything. I'm curious if that'll come up down the line. Probably not. But anyways, there's that. That's just sort of like bugging me when I watch the episode. Like, geez, I think you really should talk about this. Personally, for me, this episode was almost too much of a throwback to season 1. The Section 31. I guess that's not new per se, but or that is sort of new. But the Klingon stuff, I'm just over it. I'm like. I was really liking these past 2 episodes. I was like, hey, we're moving on. There's like that second episode was so fun and there's a lot of stuff going on. Which one was it where Pike says he's like, hey, we're going to have some fun. Like, I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Great. And this episode did not really have the fun for me. I don't know. It was fine, but it was just like a lot of throwback, a lot of like plot.
Yeah, look, we reach, Doug, because, and here's the thing, I'm trying not to be too judgmental because we're 3 episodes into a 14 episode run. And last week with New Eden, I said that this is one of my favorite, definitely my favorite discoveries so far. And if this is laying the groundwork for the big ideas that are going to be talked about, great. Now, we knew the Klingons had to come back in some way. We couldn't just leave that and never visit that again. We knew that Emperor Giorgio would be back in some way, and we'd have to figure out what was happening over at Section 31. But yeah, I'm with you as far as the plot lines that we've established and as far as the ideas that we've established. I was much more interested in following that thread that got started last week, and I know we'll be back to it. There is still more Red Angels to follow, more Red Signals to follow. Definitely interested in the Spock story, and for me, just curious to see how that plays into the bigger Spock character that we got to experience for 25 years. Ken, actually, I'm going to jump to one of your questions because before we do the show, we each jot down a handful of notes. And Ken, there was one that you posted here that I want to pose to you and to Doug here. I love that you say, how do you feel about Amanda being a bad mom? Yeah. So I thought it was a smart question. And I'm curious because, we're talking about the Spock story. We're talking about what Burnham did or may not have done for Spock. So Ken, why did you pose that? And Doug, I'm curious, what do you think about how Amanda was portrayed here? Is she a bad mom?
It's not really fair to say that she's a bad mom, but she feels like one, and I don't like it. I mean, it was always sort of, one of the tragedies was always the fact that Amanda was always reaching out to Spock, be that on, Journey to Babel? Was that the one where they were going to?
Yeah.
Or in Star Trek 4, when Spock is learning to be human again, and the computer asks, how do you feel? And Amanda has to come to him and remind him of his humanity. It sort of felt like, I mean, that was always sad, and then to have Amanda standing there in the hands of people who did not create the character, and saying, I was a really bad mom to Spock. No, not necessarily. I mean, there's so much that you can take from their relationship. You can be a good mom and still things don't necessarily work out, right? You can make decisions and your kids are going to go off and make their own decisions. I mean, she always seemed to be very loving and very accepting of everything he did, and he wanted no part of it, and yet she was always there for him. And so then for her to stand there and say, I was a terrible mother. I totally shut off love to him. And then say, I gave all my love to you, and then you're the one who turns out screwed up my kid. It's like, I mean, just why does everything that came before have to be kind of naysayed by what's happening today? I guess is the question that I have. So that's sort of why I put the question. Curious, Doug, any thoughts on that?
I guess I think you're picking up on a bit more nuances than I did watching it. I think for me, it was the whole time seeing those interactions and seeing her explain herself in that way. Just to me felt like, okay, this is how we fit canon together. Like, okay, we're going to do this, which I suppose now that you've pointed out maybe doesn't actually fit at all. But I thought in terms of like, we have to put Michael into this story. And so we're saying, okay, I gave all my love to you instead of Spock. And I don't know, I just didn't get any emotional resonance out of that personally. I was just like, okay, I see what they're trying to do here and pit them together against each other and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, that's sort of how I took that. I guess we'll find out. I did find her leaving ambiguous, and I'm not sure if it was intentional. Like when she sort of, what was the final thing she said to Burnham? I couldn't tell.
Burnham said that they would go and find Spock, and
like, I will or something.
She said no, and then she took the medical records and said I will, and she took off.
Yeah, like it seemed. I'm like, is this aggressive or like it was just played in a way where I was like, I don't tonally know exactly what's happening. I feel like that's supposed to be an aggressive move, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily see any of that negating what happened before, but I wondered if it lays the groundwork for pushing Amanda more toward Spock and away from Burnham, hence a sort of continued rift in the family. And I'm curious about is it really that Amanda is, and I know, Ken, we're playing fast and loose with the language here. I know that bad is not necessarily the single word that boils down the character, but she's in a mixed marriage. Vulcan human, Catholic, Jewish, believer, non-believer, Star Wars, Star Trek. There's mixed marriages of all kinds. And I have some sympathy for Amanda because here's this, look, let's face it, Sarek, he's a good-looking, stoic, he's an ambassador, he's very cool, but then to decide that you're going to be married to a guy who is definitely not in touch with his emotions or not expressive of his emotions for the rest of your adult life would be a very difficult thing, particularly when it comes to raising children, particularly when you have, a couple of 100,000 years of human evolution telling you how to bond with your children. And then you have to decide one day, oh, no, that's not how we're going to do it here. So I have some sympathy for Amanda for sure. And I also think that they're helping to explain the rest of the Sarek family dynamics.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Go ahead. Yes, Doug.
Okay, and I don't want to derail this too much, but and I know this is being nailed on a nail on the head or whatever too many times. But again, my wife isn't a Star Trek fan, and we've been starting to watch the Orville a little bit as well on our like ritual of like watching the Discovery. And I know, but after the last episode of the Orville we watched, we were like, oh, that was like a really touching story. I'm not going to talk about it too much.
Good, sorry. Because I haven't seen it yet. I'm catching up.
It was a touching story.
Okay,
good. A touching story. And we were like, oh, that was like, had some emotional resonance, and we just like really liked it. And then we watched the Discovery episode, or like right after, and we were like, whew, okay. Like, it's just, I don't know. Just as an outsider, or I'm not the outsider, but it's interesting seeing someone else's reaction to all of it. And I get what's happening with Discovery, in terms of like the scope of the universe or whatever, but episode to episode, I don't know. Anyways, yeah.
Well, so Ken, you have not seen that episode of the Orville. I will state again that I have not seen any of the Orville, and I know that people have asked, like, "Hey, can you guys maybe talk about the Orville one day?" Yeah, one day when I watch it. So. No, don't worry about it. Look, I'm just sort of very single-minded, and my job is to talk about Star Trek, so I want to make sure that I'm dedicating my time to Star Trek. I've heard so many great things about the Orville, and I know that I need to watch it. And I do like Seth MacFarlane, and I love that people sent me some photos of what Bob Picardo and John Billingsley guest starring a couple of weeks ago. If nothing else, I need to watch that one. But for now, doing a Star Trek show, I got to focus on Trek.
Of course. Well, thanks for your time, y'all. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say really quickly, here's what I'll say about it. It can bring the drama, that John Billingsley, Bob Picardo episode especially. It can bring the drama. It can bring the humor. And most every episode ends feeling like the world's going to be okay. Which is something that you might miss from Star Trek of old. Just, that's sort of that's my 30 seconds on it. I mean, sure, there are a few jokes that you wouldn't necessarily want the kids to see, but then again, we're not talking about the kids watching Star Trek at this point anyway. So even that, I don't think you can say is like, oh, well, no, it could never be this because of this part, because there's so much that you're not getting, the way it used to be now anyway. Yeah, I'm all for that. I'd even go see an Orville movie and still keep watching it on TV. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Doug.
All right. Well, thanks again for your time, and keep first time caller, long time listener. So take care, and cheers.
Thank you. Well, hey,
join us again sometime, please.
Will do. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah, please take care.
So, for people listening, you probably picked up on it. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty with today's show, but we are still up against the clock that we're always up against. I want to remind people really quickly, when we're done, which will be very soon, stay on Facebook and go over and catch the people at Priority One, facebook.com/Priority1 podcast. I believe it's facebook.com/Priority One podcast. And then we had, I think we had somebody else call in, and we had a message sent to us, a video message, which we'll get to next week as well.
Yeah.
So if you're counting on a full hour, well, we had a full hour, and hopefully you did too. And hopefully we'll have another full hour, a full hour even next week.
Yeah, super cool to see everybody join us. And then even with that glitch, jump over to the new feed and we'll get the audio out. So it will be like you missed nothing. And we will have that full hour next time. So thank you to the people that called in tonight. I mean, this is why we do it, because we want to hear your immediate reactions on these shows as they are new. Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer, Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log tonight by Earl Green. Thank you for bearing with everything during the technical meltdown, too. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network, including not just Mission Log, but also Women at Work, Priority One, and The Trek Files. Hey, if you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look over at patreon.com/Mission Log. Some fun items there, including early access videos to certain episodes of Mission Log, the regular weekly Mission Log. Thank you to everyone who joined us live twice tonight or later, and we will talk to you next week.